Want to give it a shot? You're good? Trust me, you passed. Trust me.
Sure, I'll try it.
All right. So 3 questions. See if you could get 2. You could at least for sure get 2. So.
If it's math, I'm good. But
Oh, it actually is math. Yeah, there you go. So actually the first one is actually a perception test. So I want to see if people could tell the difference. One of these is actually a photograph and the other one's a painting. So I want to see if people could tell the difference.
This one looks like the painting.
Painting is a photograph?
Yeah.
All right. So this one was a trick question. They're both paintings.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So actually this is an oil painting and this is a digital painting done on an iPad. So actually you can find a video on this one being done online. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So there's 2 reasons why I asked this question. First one is just believing someone opens the door to being deceived, right? Because you believe me one was a photograph, that influenced your choice, right? It's obvious. The second reason is if you want to determine something is real, an image is not good enough, right? Because if I showed you an image of an elephant flying, would you believe elephants could fly? No, right? Especially if the image defies physics, right? So this next one has to do with water, the physics of water. So pretty easy. Can we agree that water always seeks the lowest point and fills a container from the bottom to the top, and the surface always levels out, right? No matter if I change the orientation of the bottle, water only has one orientation, level, right? And then it fills the container from the bottom to the top, right? That's obvious, right? So this next one, which one of these 3 images is in the correct orientation? 1, 2, or 3, based on how we understand water behaves. Which one is in the correct orientation?
Would be this one.
Right?
Should be this one.
Right. Okay. Yeah, you got it, man.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, because water will be our point of reference, right?
Right.
Yeah. So obviously, this one, it'll be up. I took this one upside down, and this one I took sideways. Obviously, water shows us that, right? That's obvious. Yeah, you got one already. So this last one's actually even easier. So, how would you describe this? What would be the definition of level? You know how water levels out. Could we say it's horizontal?
Correct.
Right? Because if you look up the definition, it's literally the definition of level, horizontal, right? Because not a slope, right? So based on our understanding of physics, which one of these 2 is correct, A or B? Even easier.
A.
Right, that's the obvious answer, right? What if I was to tell you that we've all been tricked to believing the answer was B, even though we know it's A? And this is the reason why I'm doing this. You want to know why? Or how we were tricked?
Because of the Earth.
You got it, man. So you've heard of flat Earth, right? Or people questioning the globe. So they tell us, NASA in specific, that the Earth has a radius of 3959 because supposedly they have satellites orbiting the Earth, right? So they need to know the radius of orbit. So they do tell us the radius of the Earth is 3959. And if we multiply that times pi, that gives us the circumference, times 3.14, right? Yeah. So if we have we multiply the radius times 2, then we multiply the diameter times pi, and then we have 24,901 miles. And there should be curvature 8 inches per mile squared. So at the first mile, it should be an 8-inch drop. Second mile, 32 inches. By the third mile, there should be a 6-foot drop. And every mile it increases. So by the 10th mile, it should be a 66-feet drop. That's like 6 stories, a building. So we should be able to measure that. So if we were to build a level structure over a lake that was 3 miles across, we should be able to measure that 6-foot drop from the water supposedly curving. Because if the Earth is a globe, then every ocean, every lake on Earth should be displaying this curvature. Because water level, they're trying to tell us that water level means curve. But in reality, we understand the physics of water. Water is always level, means horizontal. So if I was to ask you, what's the number 1 proof that convinces you that the Earth is a globe?
That the Earth is a globe?
Yeah.
Satellite photos.
Photos? So again, those images defy physics. So like me showing you an elephant flying, it's not enough, is my point. And I don't know if you knew this, NASA actually doesn't even call them photographs. They actually call them images. And the reason why they do that is because they're actually Photoshopped. And they admit this. So what they say is that they take strips of imagery from high altitude. So and then they basically put all those images together in Photoshop to give us this globe, right? So you were to think that there'll be just one snapshot of the Earth, right? A real photo. So my opinion to why there's no real photographs of the Earth from space is because human beings have only gone 20 miles up. So I don't know if you've seen the Red Bull jump, right? Everybody's seen the Red Bull jump, right? He actually reached that altitude of almost right around 20 miles. Maybe it was a little more, a little under, but he did it with the helium balloon. I don't know if you knew that giant helium balloon, right? And the reason why I believe they used the helium balloon and not like a rocket or even like some kind of airplane, right? Is because at that altitude, the change in pressure is so great that maybe everything just falls apart, in my opinion. So that's why they had to use a helium balloon, because that's the only way to reach that altitude. And these are actually amateur helium balloons without a GoPro lens, 20 miles in the sky. And it's always, horizontal. That's where the word horizon comes from, horizontal, and then this is with GoPro lenses. You're only going to see curvature through a GoPro or through a CGI image or video. it doesn't exist, basically, the curvature. Again, if it does exist, then we should be able to measure this curvature, right? So this formula is a little complicated, but I know you're good with math, right? So you understand a squared plus b squared equals c squared, the Pythagorean theorem, right? So with a simple calculator, given the numbers they give us, the circumference, I actually made this curve calculator myself, again, with a simple calculator and using the Pythagorean theorem. Since they tell us the radius of the Earth, and we know the distance we're observing, we could calculate for x. Once we calculate for x, we deduct the radius, and that leaves us the drop. So this formula is actually accurate for the first 300 miles. So, this one's a little bit more easier to understand. Like, you could literally understand this one easier. So if we wanted to measure for curvature, we could use this formula or the exact one, which is this one, which is a bit more complicated, obviously, right? But yeah, so besides photographs, because obviously photographs could be doctored, they could be fake, and especially if they're admitting to them. And is there anything else maybe that convinces you? No. So how long ago would you say that you heard about this subject, right? People questioning the Earth's shape, right? How long ago?
I would say recently, 7 years.
7 years, right?
Yeah.
That's actually on point, actually, because this actually exploded on the internet in 2016. So that was 6 years ago, going on 7 now. Maybe actually, it was on the internet in 2015 too, but I didn't come across it till 2016, and it didn't start getting censored till 2018, 2019, and that's literally one of the reasons why I'm out here sharing this information, because it's being censored. And the way they're censoring it is they're not removing this information from the internet. You could look it up, what level means, all this stuff, NASA's images being fake, all of this information's out there. It's public information. The way they're censoring it is to ridicule. Literally to ridicule. So if you look up flat Earth or globe lie on YouTube, you're just gonna get propaganda videos. Literally, these experts supposedly just dismissing it, making fun of it, not even taking it serious, and they'll never talk about a physical measurement. So another thing is about, have you ever heard of the term controlled opposition? You never heard? So basically, it's kind of like a double agent, you could say, right? So you have these fake truthers or fake flat earthers, right? That will never talk about physically measuring the curvature either. And that's weird, right? Why wouldn't you, this would be the number one experiment to debunk the globe, in my opinion, right? Because again, all the images are showing us are defying physics, and if an image defies physics, we have to throw that image away and go with physics. That's the logic, but, I'm glad, do you have any questions, about this? Since yeah.
Theoretically, it should be this one.
Physically, based on our understanding of physics. So the burden of proof will be on the claim that the actually level means curve. So if water is truly curving and the oceans are truly bending around the globe at the rate they're telling us, then the burden of proof is on them to prove that. But again, NASA can easily build this structure over a lake, any lake in the U.S. or every lake on Earth, any lake on Earth. And it'll only cost about $1 million to build this structure, just a perfect, level structure over a body of water, and let's measure that curvature dropping, right? But they'll never do it. And they get over 60 million a day. Yeah. They get over 20 billion a year. So they could easily prove this if it was true. But again, they'll avoid this, and they'll just distract people with CGI. I call them cartoons for adults. That's what NASA is, if you ask me. But So I'm glad, you stopped, actually stopped to talk to you. You're actually the first one in over an hour.
Really?
Yeah. I know. Still a lot of people are, kind of doing their own thing. Maybe they're going to class, and.
No, I'm just going home.
No, I know. I've noticed that, my best chance is going to be when people are leaving, Yeah, so I'm noticing after 2, because I got here around 1. Yeah. So I'm noticing it was kind of dead, but I think after 2 is going to be the deal. What's up, man? What's up, man? So you want to give it a shot right here?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay, so we understand the physics of water, right? Yeah, man, you too. So water, right?
Yeah.
Always takes the shape of the container, right?
Right.
Could we say that it always fills the container from the bottom to the top and the surface always levels out?
Does it fill it completely?
No. Depending on how much water is in the container, it doesn't matter, but it always fills the container from the bottom to the top. It'll never be from the top to the bottom. The water will never stick to the top, right? That's obvious.
Yeah, okay.
And the surface will always level out, right? It will never be at a 45-degree angle once it's contained, right? It will always be a horizontal line, right? So very easy.
Okay.
Which one of these two is correct based on our understanding of water? Like I say, if we were to measure a giant pool or a giant lake, filled with water. And, once the water's settled and contained.
Settled and contained.
And once it levels out, which one of these two is correct?
Damn.
Very easy. Look at the water. That's the.
I would guess this one, right?
Right, that's the obvious one.
Yeah.
So the real reason I'm doing this is because we were all actually tricked to believing this is the answer, even though we understand physics, right? This is what level means. You want to know how?
How?
Do you believe Earth is the ball?
What is that?
Earth is a sphere. You believe?
Yeah.
In our, right? That's what they tell us, right? So NASA in specific, they claim to orbit the Earth, so they need to know the radius of orbit. So technically, they need to know the radius of the Earth. So they actually do tell us the radius, and it's 3,959 miles. So if we multiply that times 2, we get the diameter, and if we multiply that times pi, we get the circumference, right? So 24,901 miles is the circumference of the Earth that they're telling us that they're orbiting, right? So technically, there should be curvature 8 inches per mile squared. So basically, at the first mile, it should be an 8-inch drop. Second mile, 32 inches. Third mile, there should be a 6-foot drop. And every mile it increases because it's a curve, not a slope. Right. So by the 10th mile, it should be 66 feet of measurable curvature. So if we were to actually build a level structure over a lake to actually measure to see if that's true, if we actually use common sense and understand physics, we know this is going to be the correct answer. But they're telling us that level means curve. You know, but that has never been measured, demonstrated, or even seen. You know what I'm saying? So if I was to ask you, like, what's the number one proof that convinces you that it's a sphere? Pictures, right? So I was just actually, that's one of my first questions, is that images cannot be trusted, because I actually have 2 paintings here, and these are both, this is an oil painting, and this is a digital painting. So my point of asking this first question, which you kind of missed with the other guy, is that images cannot be trusted because they could be faked. You know, these again, these are not real. So actually, NASA admits that they're actually not even photographs. They call them images because they're Photoshop. So in other words, nobody's ever taken a picture of the Earth as a whole. So, and one of the reasons why is because, in my opinion, human beings have only gone 20 miles in the sky. Have you guys seen the Red Bull jump? No, I think it was Felix. I forgot his last name. Yeah, right? The Red Bull jump, right? The space jump, right? That's what they call it. So he was nearly 20 miles, and they used that giant helium balloon. So in my opinion, anybody that tries to like shoot a rocket or an airplane over 20 miles, the change in pressure, it would just fall apart. So if you pay attention to NASA's rockets, they always curve. You know, they always curve when they always take off. And then their excuse is, oh, we're going over the curvature, that's why we're curving, right? But again, if that curvature is truly there and they're curving, we should be able to measure it. You know, there's no going around this experiment. This will be the number one experiment to debunk the globe, right? So if I was to ask you, like, what's the number one proof besides images, or do you think just images is the number one thing that convinces? Or do you believe the Earth is globe? Let me ask you that, because I didn't even get to ask you. No problem, man.
What is it for?
So I was actually, did you hear what I was listening?
Yeah, stuff about like the curvature of the Earth.
Right. So I was saying NASA, right? You guys understand basic algebra, right? A squared plus B squared equals C squared, right? Pythagorean theorem, right? So NASA, they claim to orbit the Earth, right? So they claim to know the radius of orbit, so they need to tell us the radius of the Earth. So technically, if we use a Pythagorean theorem, based on the radius that they're telling us, and based on the length of observation we're observing, we're able to calculate for X. So in other words, once we calculate for X using the Pythagorean theorem, we deduct X, and that just leaves us with D, which will be the drop, which will be the curvature, the physical measurement of the Earth. You know, but if we were actually go into reality and measure for this curvature, if we understand physics, doesn't matter the size of the container or the amount of water always needs to be contained, and it always fills the container from the bottom to the top, and the surface always equalizes. In other words, water only has one orientation, and that's level. So they're trying to tell us that it doesn't. That orientation is relative, right? Have you heard of the theory of relativity? That's how they explain that people are upside down in China and people are sideways in Paris, right? But water only has one orientation, level. So everything's across on the same level plane. So I know if you guys heard of people that are questioning the globe, right? Flat Earth, right? So flat Earth, it was just like a term that was propped up to be mocked, because it actually doesn't have any proof. So it's literally just mocking people like me talking about measuring the curvature, because again, they have no proof. The number one proof, if I was to ask you guys, like, what's the number one proof that convinces you that the Earth is a globe? And if you could be honest, if that's just what you were told, you know, and you just went along with it, you know, a lot of people admit to that, you know, but, you know, that's what we were told, right? We never really, in my opinion, the reason why they get us at 5 years old is because we're barely developing common sense. A five-year-old believes in Santa Claus, but reindeer that can't fly, and Santa Claus doesn't have like a bag that fits millions of presents, and you know, it's basically, but a child will believe it. And that's around the same time they tell us about the globe. Because if they want to warp our common sense and make us believe level means something else, they have to do it at an early age. Because if they don't, you won't be able to convince someone that actually has common sense, you know, and understand. You know, that's why 5 years old, that's when they tell you live on a globe, you know, and, you know, this is what you're supposed to do, you know, and blah, blah, blah. And nobody ever questions it ever again, you know? Right? You know? So do you guys have any questions? I mean, about this? I mean, I'm open to answer any question you guys have.
No, I feel like I'm following along.
Right. So here's another thing about the horizon. How would you guys describe the horizon? This is the horizon, 20 miles in the sky.
Oh, flat.
Horizontal, right?
Yeah, like straight.
Literally, that's where the word horizon comes from horizontal, you know? And another thing about this that debunks the globe is that in a globe, if they say the horizon is the curvature of the earth, if we were to rise up or have a drone and elevate in altitude, that horizon should stay fixed and it should get lower the higher you elevate, because it's sloping downward supposedly, but in reality the horizon rises with you, so you're able to see further in front of you the higher you go. So it never drops, because again, that's only possible from a level plane, the horizon appearing to rise to the eye level, right? Because you're just seeing further in front of you, not further below you. You know, so if you pay attention, the only way you'll ever see curvature is through GoPro cameras or through CGI images or video. So the curvature of the earth doesn't exist, basically. So in reality, nobody really knows what the earth is. So I actually used to be atheist, so I believed in the Big Bang theory and evolution theory, and basically all that's bullshit, you know, because nobody really knows what earth is. And outer space, I don't know if you guys know, it's just a concept. So what that means is just an idea, so somebody's imagination. So everything they're telling us about the stars is just literally somebody just making it up, literally. So the stars, have you guys ever seen pictures?
Where did you get that from?
Exactly. So these are images taken, again, from amateur, you know, people, you know, like with, is using a P900 camera, which is the most powerful zoom on the market. So the stars are literally in our visible space. The fact that we could bring them into focus and actually see them, and this camera is only 83 times zoom. So that tells us these stars are no more than 1,000 in the sky, if anything, 1,000 miles or less, you know? So again, everything they're telling us about the stars is just literally to make us believe that we're in outer space and the earth is just a little globe in the infinite vacuum. But again, they're just lights in the sky. Nobody knows what they are. And then these are the planets, which were actually called wandering stars. And the word wandering means, that's where they get the word planet from. It means to wander, basically. So they're literally just stars. They only have their own unique paths. That's the only difference between the other stars. But again, we bring them into focus with the same camera. So that means the planets and the stars are literally right there, both of them. So again, it's just like a light show we have on top of us. But 100%, this place had to be created somehow, whether it's a spiritual place or it's some kind of technology that we're experiencing. Because I think the human body is like if not the most advanced piece of technology on Earth, the human body. Why? Because we are literally capable of being the smartest animal, literally out of all the creation, you know, out of all the intelligent designs here, human beings I think are number one, right? Yeah. So I think, you know, this was a big, you know, realization for me, and that's why I'm out here, you know, speaking to, you know, especially, you know, students. And, you know, especially we're being told the opposite, you know, literally. So, you know, I mean, have you guys had any questions that you maybe that you wanted to ask somebody that doesn't believe in the globe?
I don't know. I've always just kind of like...
I would just ask, why would they
lie?
to trick us?
Okay, I'll tell you why. So ultimately, I'm not the one lying. So ultimately, I don't know. So that question, if you are really honest, that question actually comes after you actually accept what's going on, right? So why are they doing it, right? That should come after you realize, like, we're being lied to, right? So me telling you right now why, it's not really going to help you much, but I'll tell you why. It's like I said, it's to warp our common sense. Why? So we're easily controlled. So basically, so that we do what we're told. So here, we're all actually equal. We all have the same 5 senses. We can all have the same capabilities of rationalizing something if somebody explains it to you, right? We all have common sense, is my point. So they know that. So what do? Again, warp our common sense so that they can control. That's the only way they could get an upper hand on us. Because nobody's above nobody else. But they can make you doubt yourself and give your authority away to someone else, and that's how you're controlled.
Like for them to get control.
Basically, like, how is it that they control all the land and all this? It doesn't make any sense, because the land belongs to the people. And, you know, the government's there to work for the people. They're there to serve us. So the fact that they owned all of the land, you know, it doesn't make any sense to me. So again, it just goes back to people are not really using common sense and just believing authority over their own common sense, right? And it's just about control, basically. That's why they lie to us.
So let's say let's say I were to believe the Earth is flat now, right?
Right. Hypothetically, say you realize that it is, right? Yeah,
So-
hypothetically.
So let's say, so then, what would be different in my life? I guess.
Okay.
Where I should, I guess, having the realization would be important. You know?
Again, okay, so if we were to actually look into this and actually with an open mind and being honest without a bias, you will get that answer.
Yeah.
You will literally get that answer. But I won't leave you hanging. I'll give you, so in my opinion, one of the reasons why, again, they want to control us is because a farmer, how does he control his animals from leaving? Like his farm animals, right? He puts a fence, right?
Yeah.
Easily. He just puts a fence and the animals can't leave anymore, right? With human beings, you couldn't do that. You couldn't put a fence around human beings and just expect them to stay in there, you know what I'm saying? So what they did is the globe has very limited area, at 24,901, that's what they tell us, obviously.
Yeah.
So that's basically the fence in our mind because we believe that there's nothing else.
Yeah.
That basically creates that fence. So if you were to actually find out, like I did, about this lie, you would. I'll tell you about why it matters to me, right?
Okay.
So that realization, basically nobody knows what the Earth. So nobody knows the dimensions of the Earth.
Yeah.
So in other words, I would like to explore the north, the south, and actually find out the limits of this place. Because I don't know if you heard of the dome theory. That comes from the biblical flat earthers, right? The biblical ones. But I'm not biblical myself. So I don't believe in the dome, but air for sure.
I don't know the dome theory.
The dome theory. So it's a biblical scripture that says that the earth is contained by a dome.
Oh.
So
So let's say it was this campus, but there was a dome around it.
kind of like The Simpsons, but the whole earth is encompassing the whole earth. So again, we go to physics, air pressure. How do we create a higher air pressure than the one we have here? We have to have a container completely sealed. It has to be completely sealed, and then we add air in there, and that's how we increase air pressure, like a tire in a car. What happens when there's like a tiny little hole on that tire? Why? Because of equilibrium. The air is always trying to equilibrate, right? So they're telling us that outer space is a negative vacuum, right, next to Earth's pressure, and the air on Earth doesn't equalize into space without a container. Like it's not equal, So that defies physics, basically. First of all, So if you basically understanding physics is how you're gonna understand this,
Yeah.
And again, like I said, a lot of people are just diverting and just looking at the sky, talking about NASA's videos and how they're glitching and all that. That's all distraction, in my opinion. I mean, it like once you understand this, like the NASA thing is obvious.
Yeah.
There's a lot of anomalies in their videos and stuff like that.
Would you say for you that the main focus isn't really like the Earth? It's more just that the authority is lying. Like,
That we're being controlled.
But so it's like you don't really care that the Earth is flat. Like
Exactly.
you're fine with living
Yeah.
on a flat Earth.
Yeah, but to me it doesn't matter. I actually don't like being lied to.
Okay.
So that's why I'm out here. Yeah.
So you're
Especially children are being lied to, and I hate to say, I mean, even here at universities, at this level, we're still being astrophysics is all assumptions. It's all
Right.
theories.
So So let's say now that let's say we're being
we're being
controlled, So how would you say we can get out of it if we were to want to?
Yeah.
control?
So at the end of the day, we all have to take responsibility for ourselves.
Okay.
So I shouldn't have the right to tell you what to do and how we're gonna get out of this. If anything, we should work together. But we can't get to that point of working together if you still believe, one thing, and I'm trying to so what I'm doing right now is literally the only thing I could think of right now.
Yeah.
So once we get enough people with an open mind or being honest, at least like-minded, then I think we can make some real change. And one of the real changes that I think will happen is communities are going to start forming. Okay. So in other words, these communities are going to be rent-free. The communities are going to be in charge of their own land, right? Mm-hmm. And if we truly live in a free economy, they'll let these people participate in an economy if they want. So basically, the economy will become optional to them if they want to actually work for money and pay for services. But if they don't want to, they could just live in their community and amongst the people like them, right? Mm-hmm. That's a truly free society. Mm-hmm. So I would like to see something like that, right? Mm-hmm. So right now, we're the opposite of that. I know a lot of people might get triggered by this, but I think we live in a cult right now. Why? Because cults have authorities, and the cult members just follow the authority blindly. They just believe them with no common sense. And I believe that's what we're experiencing right now.
Because this is what you're told.
It's just what you're told. People just go along to get along. Nobody really thinks about the stuff. Using common sense. We're swayed by theories and
So let's say
stories.
we have our own separate society. Right?
Again, and it won't be separate. I know it sounds like it's separate, but it would just be like
Optional.
optional. It's optional. Yeah, you could be part of the community as well. It's not like private, But
so let's say we're on our, the society where, I choose to be in this society because there's not as much,
Yeah, everything's optional. If you want to pay taxes, right? All that's optional, right?
So like, there's no higher figure at least.
Right. Everybody is on the same level of authority. All the men, at least, and the women, will be there as well. The kids.
So let's say in that scenario, who stumps who? Let's say someone that I feel like you did wrong, right?
Oh, you're talking about like a justice system. You're talking about.
Yeah. So then, how does that come into play if there's no one in charge?
Yeah, I don't know if you know, but there's actually countries that actually I agree with. Have you heard of stoning?
Oh yeah.
Stoning, right? So basically, if a member of the community rapes or is caught murdering or raping, the community basically handles it.
Yeah.
They either tie him up and they basically stone him to death, or they'll break all his bones, or basically I think that's more of a repercussion than just going to jail, having your 3 meals a day and your AC.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's not really like punishing people. You know what I'm saying? But
I mean, like obviously,
I think communities will take care of those issues on their own.
And with that, what if someone's, because we see now, with the internet and all,
Mass shootings and stuff like that, or what?
Oh no, like where people get like canceled for things.
Oh, okay, yeah,
so let's say someone wants to claim that they got raped, whole communities gathers around, stones them, and it turns out they never did it. Is like, so there should be a,
No, that's some legal system. So obviously there would have to be like significant evidence for the people to actually, obviously word to mouth. I would assume these people have common sense and are rationally thinking about situations. So they're not just going to take someone's word.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? There has to be some kind of evidence, some kind of trauma, rape, there's going to be scratches. There's going to be DNA under the nails,
Yeah.
So unless they come, again, in this society, children are not going to be as vulnerable. Why? Because the family unit's going to be strong.
Yeah.
So a lot of the things that happen right now is because the family unit is falling apart. Everybody sends their kids to school, and that's where kidnappings happen, when the parent's not around, going from point A to point B. So I think that's very dangerous. I think sending your kids to school is not good. I think it's the opposite of what we should be doing. I think every parent has a responsibility. Since you brought that child into this world, you have the responsibility to raise them. You shouldn't give that responsibility to teachers or to other authority to do it for you. That's where we're falling apart, in my opinion. So it goes very deep. The whole issues that we're experiencing right now, it goes back to the root of our common sense, literally, in my opinion.
Yeah.
There's a movie where we saw it in high school where it's like a family and they don't take their kids to school or anything.
Oh, okay.
And they go on like road trips and they live in the woods and like what is it called?
I don't know.
I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah. There's actually a movie called The Village, and basically they have you guys seen The Truman Show?
Yeah.
The Truman Show? With Jim Carrey?
I never watched it.
Oh, okay, but
I know about it.
It's something like that. So basically, they have this community in the middle of the woods, and they basically lie to all the children there that we're living in the past and technology doesn't even exist. So they even made a deal with the airport nearby to not have airplanes fly over that area. So these kids grow up believing that that's all there is to their existence, and that the woods has monsters, and that's why they never leave. So in my opinion, that's kind of like the same thing is happening with the globe. They're telling us that the globe, so we don't leave, basically, we're being lied to. Because as human beings, I think we're natural explorers. Yeah. We wonder, we're curious. We're very curious animals.
Yeah.
So the fact that they take that from us from the start, because they tell us that they already explored everything, I think that's very detrimental, to a human being.
And with that, what do you feel is stopping you from doing the things, like, since you're...
Yeah, it's like starting my own community, right?
Yeah, so not even just that, like, what... Let's say they're controlling me as well. What are they doing that's stopping me from doing what I want?
That's the thing. It's all brainwashed. So we're doing it to ourselves at the end of the day.
So they're just making me believe that
they're making you doubt yourself.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, you're doing it to yourself. Because after you leave today, if you don't research this anymore, whose fault is that?
Yeah, well, yeah, mine.
Right? Actually, before you leave, because I know I forgot to give the other people some flyers, let me give you a flyer. And there's some info. Again, you could cross-reference. Because again, if you try to look this online, it is being censored. And again, you could cross-reference. And I actually have conversations like this in public all the time. And this is actually my first time coming to a university. But I'm actually going to be going to USC, UCLA. I'll be back here again. And I'm going to I'm gonna make sure that people hear this, because it's too crazy what's going on, in my opinion.
And also,
You know?
since you feel liberated,
Yeah.
so like I can't say I'm on the same boat,
Right.
But like you as someone that's liberated, so what is the government? How can they stop you now? Like now that you're liberated, like what is their like there's nothing stopping you from exploring.
Okay. Yeah. Right. So here's what happened to everyone. Most people, when they want to keep a bird in a cage, what do? Or they cut the wings off, right? A lot of domesticated birds, they get their wings cut off so that they don't leave, right? I feel like we've been handicapped as well. Why? I don't have the skills to build a house, or I don't understand what soil I need to grow what food, or so I've been handicapped from my actual purpose here to be independent. Yeah. So if I actually try to do what you're telling me to do, I'm gonna die. Yeah. And I'm smart enough to understand that. So my goal is to, again, reach to other people, and maybe as a collective, 100 of us, maybe in those 100 people, somebody knows how to do construction, and somebody knows good about farming, and we could all learn that. You know what I'm saying? And then work together. You know what I'm saying? And again, economy could still exist. We could all still be driving Teslas, all that stuff could still exist, but it has to be optional. The way they enslave us is by claiming to own all the land, and we agreeing to it. Now we pay more than half of our check goes to just paying our imaginary rent. So in my opinion, that's how they're enslaving us. They're them claiming the land for themselves. But again, we're all agreeing because we all want to be a part of this society. So again, we're all doing it to ourselves at the end of the day. But they brought us to this point though, because we were kids. It wasn't our fault. We were all told this shit when we were kids.
Yeah. And by they, you don't just mean the
No, not even the president. Not even those are just puppets. You don't know. I don't know the real people that are in charge. And to be honest, I don't. It might be a group of 10. It might be a group of 100. I don't know. It's the people that invented the printing machines. Those are the people that control everything. So the people that control the money control the system, basically.
Mass production.
Yeah, exactly. Factory farming, everything, that's how they control us. That's how they disconnect us too from actually working the land ourselves, you know. But,
so I see what you mean by the, wings getting cut off.
Right.
But it's also like
I do plan on getting there, trust me. I do plan on being off grid, probably, something like that. That'll be my goal.
And it feels like it's like a uphill battle.
Right. Yeah.
And would you say with, because this was centuries that this was in the making, it sounds like. So,
well, that's what they're telling us again,
So let's say, would you even say that in a lifetime, I guess, you would be able to achieve what you're trying to
reach? That's a good question.
It's grand.
Yeah. So I do think about that a lot.
So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, you could go after this because you feel like it's right. And but it's kind of almost like, does it feel like it's a wasted effort, and almost as if, should you just, I guess, secede to the,
the norm? The norm, right?
That's just the,
No,
It's kind of like just.
I'm not gonna lie. I do have like my ups and downs, right? When it comes to this, I do, go through a lot of negativity in my head. Like, oh my God, I can't. Being awake in this kind of like scenario we're in, or being aware, right, of what's going on, it's bittersweet, basically.
Yeah.
So it's not easy, sometimes. But my motivation is, I know what I know, and if I'm wrong, I want to be proven wrong.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go to the source.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, if I'm wrong, I want to be proven wrong.
Yeah.
Physically, I want you to show me.
Like you want the facts.
I want the facts. I don't want theories. I want facts. And so that's what motivates me, that I know the facts.
And with this, do you feel like it's like overall it's worth the
right
the struggle? Because like I said, like let's say you put in a lifetime of it, it's kind of tough to say the because like I said, it was such a, if it's the system that you're saying, it sounds like it was built from a long time. So to
at least 200 years. I mean, that's how old the United States is.
So like
over 200 years.
It's almost nearly, I guess, to make a change.
Yeah.
It's such a, like, it's almost as if.
It's almost impossible in our lifetime, right?
Yeah. So it's like, granted, if you create like a, someone could carry on or whatever.
Right.
Like that would be, optimal.
So, yeah.
But in the end of the day, it kind of feels like would it be worth, I guess, spending your life to do so? instead of, I guess, pursuing something
Right.
that could feel more
So here's the thing.
fulfilling.
Yeah,
I guess, you know?
there's nothing that fulfills me more than doing this, because if
Okay.
I didn't do this, what does that mean for me? That I have to just go along to get along.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, before this realization, life didn't really make sense to me. I was actually an introvert. I didn't really like going out. My friends went out and party a lot. I didn't. I wasn't really into none of that socializing, right? And I just felt that something was wrong deep inside me, right? I never really was comfortable, right?
Yeah.
So this realization to me was like, holy shit, this is what I want to do now, because this realization was so huge to me. There's nothing, in my opinion, obviously I'm speaking for myself, that makes me put it this, I'm doing this for my own sanity.
Yeah.
Because if I didn't come out here and talk to people, I could just my thoughts would just eat me alive. You know what I'm saying?
So it's a way of
therapy, exactly. So this is kind of therapeutic for me. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So, and another thing is, there's a guy on there. His name is Dell. Is the channel Beyond the Imaginary Curve? You'll see him. He's actually been doing interviews like this at universities in the UK since 5-6 years ago. So it's when this exploded. So he's been doing this for a while now. And to be honest, and watching him go out to universities and how he speaks, and how he puts it out, influenced me and gave me the motivation to actually come out and do it myself. Because again, this is not a one-person effort. Like you said, if it's just me out here, nothing's gonna change. So I'm hoping to influence other people as well, and actually doing it with an approach like this, because it's been ridiculed so much. If I had a sign right here that said the earth is flat or something, people will literally probably just laugh, or they'll probably ridicule me.
I'm not gonna lie, it's the sign that.
The sign caught us.
So I have to be kind of a little bit sneaky, bringing this information to people, because again, if I say flat earth from the start, people are just gonna shut down. They're not gonna listen to what I'm saying, and they're not gonna get it. And again, that's all the propaganda right there that they just heard. You know what I'm saying? But that's why I think this is the way forward. Because if this stays on the internet, they control the internet. They literally could censor. They could remove views. They could remove subs. You won't come out in the algorithms. They control all that.
And obviously you're recording.
Yeah.
So what would you Are you planning on posting it on the internet?
So actually, like I said, I do have a channel that I just started about 6 months ago. That's the first one, Level-Headed William and Natalie. And the second one's actually mine as well, but I haven't uploaded there, nothing yet, but I will in the future. And then again, the other ones are just channels that help me, understand this, and again, there's a lot of controlled opposition channels, meaning fake truthers, they will be considered double agents, again, to distract from this. So any truther or flat earther, I don't like to use that word, realist, not talking about physically measuring the Earth's curvature like this and just focusing on laser experiments. They're just distracting too.
It's kind of
controlling both sides.
Like they're saying they're a flat earther, but they're just trying to sound.
They're trying to sound dumb. For the onlooker. That's what controlled opposition would be. So somebody genuine like me. So if you go on YouTube or even on some national TV shows, there's been controlled debates already, so for millions of people to watch. And again, they're controlled debates because they don't get to the nitty gritty. They're just bouncing around back and forth, and it just doesn't make any sense. And to be honest, it fucking frustrates me. And that's one of the reasons why I'm out here too, because I need to break it down how it should be, because these motherfuckers are just fucking trying to trick people, and they're using every trick in the book. Every trick in the book you could think of, they're using. So again, all that's motivation for me. Most people will probably feel down, oh man, we'll never get nowhere. These fools are just, But to me, that's motivation. I flip it, So that motivates me.
So overall, I wouldn't say it completely changed my.
Oh no, I don't expect to convince you.
I brought up a question.
No,
I appreciate
the
appreciate the conversation.
No, thanks for stopping, man. You guys have a good one.
All right,
Nice to meet you.